Hi everyone and welcome back to a new video. Today we're gonna look at monorepo managers, so the tools that you can actually use when you are working with a workspace with different packages that are going to be shared across the project or multiple projects. A typical example of this is to have a server-side component, a common shared component such as a utility library, and a front-end component. So there are several tools that are being used nowadays in the industry. The three most famous ones are Lerna and Yarn Workspaces, which are the two ones that I'm going to show you about. However, there are a few package managers that are also worth of mention here. The next one for mention is NX. And the next actually comes from a more enterprisey approach, and it actually allows you to have a full stack of working technologies. When you set up your project with an X, it comes, for example, with end-to-end already set up for you. It comes pre-integrated with Cypress for end-to-end testing. For example, you can have a look at it. For example, you can have a look at it for React, and supports frameworks such as Gatsby or Docusaurus that you might know if you've been following this channel for a while. Has presets, so when you create a workspace, it has a preset, for example, if you use React or Vue or Angular. And it comes pre-configured. You already have Jest for your API, you already have Cypress, you already have ESLint. However, once you set up a project with NX, actually it's gonna allow you to choose different approaches. For example, if you use TypeScript for your project, you might want to use TypeScript, which is a little bit of an older approach or a newer approach with ESLint. So let's get started. The first tool we're gonna explore today, as I said before, is gonna be Yarn Workspaces. To initialize everything, we're gonna run the command yarn init followed by the -y option, because we're gonna accept all the default settings that Yarn offers us, such as the package name, the license, and everything. We're just gonna open the package.json file and add the private true flag, because well, it used to be required in version 1, where this has been dropped in version 2. However, I'm gonna keep it for this example for simplicity. Okay, so we created our package.json folder, and now we're going to create what it could be our front-end project. The front-end project, I'm gonna make a very simple example. So here I'm keeping things really simple. We're just going to do some console.log, import a constant from a second package, etc. Okay, I wanna keep this example as simple as possible, using plain JavaScript and no TypeScript, because I wanna keep this very simple as I can. So I created a front-end folder, and inside the front-end folder I'm going to simply do a yarn init and keep everything the same. I'm going to add a start to do a node index.js. I'm going to add an index.js file to this package. So let's create this index.js file, and let's put a classic console.log hello world to keep everything very simple. Let's add some quotes around this. Okay, now we're going to create our packages folder, and we're going to create a module inside this packages folder, which is what is going to contain our constants. So we have our packages, and then we're going to add, let's call this one commons. And then we create our index.js file. Okay, so now we can cd into this common directory from our terminal. Exit from frontend, and we go cd packages, commons. And in here we're going to run yarn init, but not with the y option now. because we want to specify the package name following the convention of @symbol main package name, so monorepo-managers, / the name of the package itself, which is commons. So @monorepo-managers/commons. I'm sure you guys have saw this pattern somewhere. For example, in the definitely typed package manager, this is what the repo actually looks like. Alright, so we created this commons file. It should have created a package.json, which is not showing up right now. So I'm not sure what is going on in here. I'm going to try to restart the VS Code and see you in a second. The package.json is there. I'm going to just quickly restart VS Code and see you in a bit. Okay, I closed and opened VS Code and everything seems to work fine. So in our index.js, we're going to put a module.exports, which is an object. I'm going to put hi, hello world. Very simple sentence that we can use, we can reference from our front-end package manager. Let's make sure that everything actually works fine and we can actually run this index.js from the front end to avoid surprises. So in the root directory, we're going to run the command yarn so that all the dependencies are actually added correctly and they can be seen. Here we need to add a new bit, which is workspaces, and we're going to specify that the workspaces are front end, which is our main directory, and everything inside the packages folder. So we can simply use packages/star with the glob character, and each module, which is found inside the packages directory, so each directory under the packages folder, is going to run as a single package with the proper package name. In our case, it's going to be @monorepo-managers/commons. Let's add a script inside our main repository in which we have a start, which is yarn current working directory frontend start. So yarn is going to change the working directory to frontend and then run the start command in it. So if we run yarn start from our main repository, we should actually see hello world being printed in the console. Okay, looks like that the command has failed, and the reason why the command has failed is that in the package.json of our front-end package, I have not specified the start command correctly. It needs to go under scripts, and then under script we have the start command. Let's format the file, let's go back and run yarn start, and now we see the hello world actually popping up. Okay, now let's do a console.log of the package coming from our commons package. So we're gonna require this hi coming from our monorepo managers commons. What I'm doing in here is to copy paste the name of the module to avoid any mistakes, and I'm also going to change this variable name to come from commons package to make this very explicit, so that when we read the result in the console, we're going to see it correctly. So we import commons from require our package, so monorepo managers commons, which as you can see there is already the IntelliSense can tell the reference to this package, and the variable hi as we saw. Now IntelliSense is also going to be able to say commons.hi correctly. And now we're gonna run yarn start once more from the main, and we're gonna see how commons package is coming from the root directory. Okay, so now that we saw our Yarn Workspaces, let's have a look at the next one, which is going to be Lerna. So our project, we just finished using Yarn Workspaces. We're gonna try it with Lerna, so we're just gonna build on top of that. We don't need to change anything here. So you can install Lerna in the global namespace doing npm install-g Lerna, or you can simply use npx, which usually comes packaged with Node.js installation. So you can do npx lerna init, and it's going to create some files in your directory. So the first one you're gonna notice is that our dev dependencies have been updated, and inside our dev dependencies we added Lerna, which at the time of writing is version 4. And there is also a lerna.json, which lists some packages with a glob of packages. And now in this case, I'm going to add the front end, which came from our example, to tell Lerna that front end is also a package that needs to be looked for. File. For example, you can add commands and you can specify command versions. As an example, we can have the bootstrap command, which is the one that actually does the linking of your packages in here, and specify that when you run this command, you want to maybe ignore certain files, which means when you run the lerna bootstrap command, those files are not actually going to be these projects, these packages are not actually going to be cross-linked. And you can use a glob pattern or an array of packages. Now let's bring up the website with the documentation. So we're gonna discuss some of the options, and then we're gonna look at what's going on. So our lerna.json has npm client, which is specified in here, and it is going to specify which client to use for our packages. You can use, of course, npm or yarn. The default command is npm, however, for my project, I think I'm gonna go for yarn for better performances. Here we have the command block. This command block essentially modifies the commands that you run through Bootstrap. So in this case, there are 3 examples in the documentation. So the first one is ignore changes. So first of all, we need to look at the fact that there are commands. Lerna has different commands, such as the main ones are bootstrap, which starts the Lerna CLI itself, and we're gonna run this command when we start the packages in the current repo. What it's gonna do is gonna look inside our repo, and is going to cross-link essentially all the packages that are inside our Lerna inside our directory. So it's gonna make packages available throughout the packages. Okay, so then we have when we run those commands, we can of course specify different parameters. In the case of the bootstrap parameter, we are saying in the case of this example here, ignore those components. It can be an array, or it can be a glob like in here. It can be an array of components like specified one by one, or something such as component x -- star. So it's gonna match all the components that are followed by a star sign. npm args, npm client args, is essentially an array of strings of the parameters that we want to run when we run the lerna bootstrap command. So every time someone is gonna run or clone this repo, is gonna say lerna bootstrap, automatically those arguments are going to be appended to the command. Then we're gonna have the scope. The scope of this bootstrap command is essentially a restriction of which packages are going to be bootstrapped when this command is initialized. And of course, in packages, there are all the packages that we have in our repo. It can be simply a glob like this one, or we can have other ones, such as our front end in our scenario. Okay, so what else we have in Lerna? So the main command that you're gonna use are the one that are actually in my case, for my usual workflow. As I said, the main one that I use is Lerna bootstrap, because it's the first one you run when you do something. Lerna publish, you would use it if you need to actually publish those packages independently. However, it's not a function that I actually use, at least not at my work. We usually have projects with components, but we don't actually share them. We just cross-reference those packages in a monorepo approach. And it's nice to have things split through this command. Other commands that I run is the diff and changed. So in changed, it's going to show us which packages have actually changed. Alright, so we made changes in one or another package, and it's going to say, oh, actually this package changed, this other package changed. It will be kind of similar to running git status. However, this one it just gives you a list of the packages that have changed, and it's going to respect whatever configuration you have inside the command in your package.json. Okay, then we have another one that I do. It's list. I'm gonna open a new tab for easy. The list is gonna give you all the different packages that you have inside your package. So all the packages, what's the version, where each one of these packages is located, etc. Well, init, which we already saw. Link, which you can use to create and link a new package. It can be used because it's gonna link all the packages that depend on each other. And now, following this way of working with Lerna, you can actually get a repository that does that, as you can see, is built on top of Yarn Workspaces, and actually adds a lot more powerness. So for example, you can add the packages coming from Git or from file in your local file system. Plenty of projects use this manage system. We have our Lerna.json with our packages, and now let's try to install some packages so that we can actually show what Lerna is about. So let's start by doing we are inside the front-end folder, so let's run yarn add lodash, and actually in our Lerna.json, following this, we can actually define the npm client. So we're actually going to add this line in here and say that as npm client we actually want yarn, so that Lerna is going to use yarn when running the different commands. So inside here we installed lodash, and now we can go cd packages commons and then yarn add let's say bootstrap. Alright, so now what we got a package.json in those two locations, and now going back we can actually run the command Lerna. Alright, we need to add in here use workspaces set to true, because we are actually coming from Yarn Workspace. So we run the Lerna bootstrap, and it's going to resolve those packages. It's going to add those dependencies in here. It's going to say, well, they gives me lodash, and everything still works exactly the same. So if we run yarn start, let's have a look what is happening here. In here I was trying to add a second function, which then I thought was too complicated to do. Well, I didn't want to make a heavy example. So everything still works the same. So why are we using Lerna then? We're using Lerna for the different module and packages that we actually can run. We can use workspaces, we can run test files, etc. Let's have a look at what this allows us to do. So far we linked the packages. It looks like that really nothing has changed. compared to when we were using simply Yarn workspaces. So let's add the script sections, and now we can say, let's say we have a test section, and this test section is gonna say echo tests in commons package working. Just to test this out, cd packages commons yarn run test. So it's actually working. So now we go and we run it. Well, we can also Lerna run test command. And what it's going to do is going to go inside each one of the packages and run the test script, if any. So in here we can go and say test testing the front-end module. We can go back to here and say Lerna run test, and it's going to run tests in the common package and tests in the front-end module. All of this run from so now that we saw some of the basic packages and uses of Lerna, let's have a look at the main few more examples. So the first one I want to show you is how we can execute a command across multiple projects. So the way to do it is by using the command lerna exec followed by -- and then the command we want to execute. And this is going to actually execute this command inside each one of the packages. So in this case, of course, in running git status, you could do make dir new dir lerna, and now we're gonna look inside those packages. We're gonna see those commands being created in both. The same way we can do rmd, and it's actually going to delete those two packages in the same way. Something else we can do, we can add dependencies to packages. So for example, we can add a package, let's say Lodash, and it's going to add the Lodash to both packages. So let's have a look. Lodash. We can also scope, for example, Lerna add React scope equal commons. Well, actually, of course, is Monorepo managers commons, and we added React to this file, but not to this one. So the first command we're gonna see is lerna diff, which is going to run a git diff on our project, showing us what changed since our last commit. Another one we can actually run is the command lerna ls, which is going to list which packages we have in our monorepo. And the last command is lerna changed, which is going to tell us at a glance which packages have been changed. In this case, our two packages both have been changed.